reason is, Mary, I find that the biggest mistake salespeople make is they confuse objections with excuses. And then they end up responding to the excuses rather than a real objection. And we always say in my seminars, if you're responding to something that's not real, it's sort of like trying to hit a hologram. You can keep smacking at it, but it's not real. So you're never going to get to what's really going on for the customer. Right. So I thought that would be an interesting thing to talk about.
So Sherry, how can a sales rep recognize the difference between an excuse and an objection? Because I'm sure both trigger some emotions in them. You know, how do they recognize the difference?
Well, that's a great question. And you recognize the difference because there's certain things that are what I call core objections or real objections. And excuses are things you hear like, send me a proposal. That sounds great. I'll run it by my board. We need to think about it. They're sort of buzzwords. They're sort of corporate slang, if you will. The real objection, I've broken down into 6 real objections that you would get when asking for the sales. And real quickly, what we learned from the triune theory of the brain is that all mammals have 3 parts to their brain. So we've got in our brain the reptilian brain, which is the fight or flight response. And you'll see how this makes sense in the sales process in just a minute. So when an animal gets into fear, that animal will fight or flee. Now, the reptilian brain has been around for hundreds of millions of years. This is how humans learn to adapt in the wild. If you think about it, if you're trying to survive, you're going to need that reptilian brain to kick in. What happens when we go into our reptilian brain is we actually have a physical change. So hormones are released like cortisol, adrenaline, all the blood, for example, will leave our organs and go into our muscles. We've all heard the story of the woman whose baby's underneath the car, and all of a sudden she's got superhuman power to lift up that car. That is the reptilian brain.